Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. In this video, I'm going to go over a self-assessment to truly help you self-assess your readiness for a career in the IT field. Now, please remember as we go over this self-assessment that this is truly a self-assessment for those looking to enter the field. It's not for those with advanced experience or those with very specific experience. This is really if you're looking to get started, looking to start to ask questions about your skills and abilities, entering IT fields, and applying and looking for positions. This is a tool that I use often in the very first stages of a boot camp activity with students to help them self-assess themselves. And if you would like a copy of this self-assessment so that you can self-assess your own abilities, please visit digitalfutureseducation.com for a free download. I will also include a download in the description. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we have here is a document with self-assessment questions, things to really think about as you begin to get started with an entry-level interest in an IT career field. So let me go ahead and enlarge the sections. So one of the very first questions that I'm sure to ask of any student group or someone looking to get involved with IT is, what attracts you to the field? Consider the specific technologies, trends, or impacts that you're passionate about. And this is just an opportunity to help someone speak or clearly explain why they're interested in the field and help them get started with getting out their first thoughts or feelings around their interest level. So if you're following along with this video, start to take a minute to think about, what attracts you to the field? Why are you interested in a career in IT? In this very first section is current job interest and current work skills. So the very first question is, what type of IT job are you interested in? Basically trying to nail down your very first next step. And the status of this option within the self-assessment here is full-time, part-time, internship, job shadow, apprenticeship, freelancer contract. So that's a really wide range of options for entering into the IT field. You may have some experience where you can potentially do freelance work in a particular area. You may be looking for an apprenticeship where working underneath someone and gaining some experience that way. Job shadow is a very easy way to get some experience, seeing how, going to a workplace, seeing how people do specific jobs or tasks during the day. You could look for a part-time position or full-time. Maybe you're not fully prepared for a full-time position. Maybe you're just looking for part-time work. All of these become important questions as you start to break down, what you're truly looking for in that first opportunity. The next question we're going to break into is, what size of company would you prefer to work for? There's going to be some different tastes here. Is it a nonprofit, a small business or startup, or a medium-sized corporation or a large corporation? I think one thing to think about is that not all business environments are good for every person. Some people may want the opportunity that comes with a startup or a small business environment, and some people may be more interested in a large corporation or a medium-sized corporation opportunity. And there's also the option of a nonprofit. Sometimes that's a great place to get your start. Someplace that's a great place to have a certain level of job security in that you may become part of a smaller team. Something to think about. It's just something to think about. The next question's a pretty big one. Which of the following entry-level IT roles are you most interested in? And I ask students here to select all that apply. These are roles that are defined in the presentation page with entry-level skills and descriptions in red on the bottom. So this is all part of a bootcamp activity that I do, and I give them definitions of these roles. In this video, since I'm purely going over just the self-assessment tool itself, I won't provide those definitions, but I have other videos in which you'll find, and I can link those in the description as well, that help you give specific documentation of these roles and titles. Here, I give them the opportunity to list systems analyst, network technician, junior software developer, or help desk technician. These are generic descriptions, broad, but also can be specific to your interest when starting out. You may, really be prepared for more of a, help desk technician role, troubleshooting the front line of issues within an organization. Junior software development is definitely someone who's got much more of a programming focused career goal. A network technician, which is, a goal that's probably going to take a couple years to acquire or multiple years of experience and training to help you get potential opportunities in that field. And then systems analyst, which is basically a role that kind of covers some other areas, whether it's data integration or other available software or data systems within an organization. But it helps you, if you're doing the assessment, start to narrow down the scope of types of job positions you're seeking. Now, another potential area to look into here is this based around this question: what industries are you the most interested in working in? Select all that apply. So here I give students the opportunity to list large corporation, healthcare, which is always a growing IT area, finance and banking, which has very specific security needs, even much more advanced than some other types of organizations, education, government, and retail. I think this is just something to help you think about what type of work environments and different types of spaces and what types of job opportunities come from these types of environments. In a large corporation, you might get kind of lost within a larger world of the tech and have a larger growing curve and have a larger growth curve in order to feel like you're, understanding everything happening. In healthcare, you're going to have different technology than maybe in other types of environments. Finance and banking, you're definitely going to have a higher level of focus on security and potentially cybersecurity areas. Education is going to have different apps and resources and technologies which are specific to education. Government is going to definitely have a wide range of available roles, and retail is going to be focused maybe on the marketing and banking side of a retail business. Now this part of the self-assessment is purely dedicated to helping you measure your current job interests and work skills. Now, one important part of that is part of a job interest is also, what are your salary expectations for an entry level IT position? And here I have the options of less than 30,000, 30 to 40,000, 50 to 60,000, above 60, and not sure. The reason why I include this is because as you choose specific roles, and then you begin to do additional research into the roles, you're going to want to make sure that these roles match your salary expectations. And just to give an idea, many entry level IT positions start in that 40 to $60,000 range, maybe the end of the 30, 40 up through that $60,000 range currently in the United States. Now, as it goes above, of course, it's going to take additional training and certifications and education potentially and experiences. Now, that's why I have these lower numbers, because this is really focused on entry level positions and what might be entailed, and also around the expectations of the person taking the survey. The next thing to really think about, as you're beginning to prepare for a career in IT, is what's your highest level of education completed. Now, this is going to really help you not only acquire more money in a particular position or define the position that you're going to achieve in itself. So here I have the options of high school GED, some college, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, or other. And this is just to begin, if you're taking this assessment and you're really looking for a position and wondering where to start, your expectations around salary, type of position, is going to really be very dependent upon the amount of education that you currently have and if you need to acquire more education. So if you're working with me, potentially helping you, coach you towards the next step in your career, what you're going to find is that there may be additional education required. The next area of this self-assessment is work experience and skills. Which of these technical skills do you possess? Select all that apply. See entry-level page, entry-level IT skills and descriptions. So I'll also provide the entry-level IT skills and descriptions in the description of this video, just to give you context if you're not sure. But basically here, I'm listing programming, network management, database management, cybersecurity basics, cloud computing basics, or other. Now, this is a very broad list, but it should help you narrow your scope, maybe potentially into career options. If you have programming skills, that might align to database management or software development. Network management, you might be looking more at a networking position. Strictly database management, database position. So, and so on. And the cybersecurity basics is also a great place that if you have some experience with cybersecurity, some potential positions are going to have a little bit of more alignment with those skills. The next question also helps you develop your focus. Do you have any previous work experience in IT or other related fields? And that's a strongly disagree, agree, strongly disagree, neutral, agree, a strongly agree. Now, this helps frame your experience where, if you're really starting out, you can begin to add some of those maybe transferable skills from other positions, or if you have particular IT skills that you can distinctly add, that's a place to put into the notes, or, a place where you can note that you do have those experiences. And the final section of this part of this part of the assessment is, are you proficient in any languages other than English? If yes, please specify. So this is a yes or no. And it's just an opportunity here to kind of explain that you have this skill, as in some environments, being bilingual has a tremendous advantage. Now, just to review, this section of the IT self-assessment is all about your current interest and work skills. So what we just did was we reviewed, your job interest, your work skills, what size company you prefer to work for, your entry level roles that you're potentially looking at, industries that you might think about joining, your salary expectations, education completed, work experience that you may have acquired in other positions or other education, and additional skills and experience that you've acquired in other places. This sets the tone for beginning to choose jobs or positions that are aligned with your interests, aligned with your expectations for salary, and can begin to frame what you're looking for in your next step. And just to give you a window into, other parts of this assessment that I'll be making videos on, you'll see here there's technical skills and knowledges, in which we'll talk about the technical skills and knowledges within a self-assessment. There's job skills as they relate to being an entry-level job skills. And there's opportunities to reflect on your own hard and soft skill development, developing areas of growth as you move forward, and beginning to set a goal for your career in IT. Thanks for checking out the video and going over these current job interests and work skills as part of the first part of a self-assessment to help you get started in looking for your career. Please visit digitalfutureseducation.com, where you can access this self-assessment for your own purposes and help you develop your skills and develop a plan for you to get to the next step. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. In this video, I'm going to go more deeply into technical and soft skills that you should consider when doing a self-assessment for an IT career. Consider this the part 2 of my video on identifying why you're choosing an IT career, looking into why you're passionate, and what soft and hard skills should you have. And please remember to visit digitalfutureseducation.com to get your own copy of this. I'll put a link in the description so that you can review these questions to help you develop your best understanding of how prepared you are for a career in it. In my prior video, I went over having you identify what drew you to the IT industry. We reviewed your current job and interest and work skills. So we're going to dive deep into technical soft skills and knowledges. So underneath the area of technical soft skills and knowledges, you'll see general technical skills. And the very first topic here, IT troubleshooting IT troubleshooting expertise. I am skilled at diagnosing and resolving technical issues with computer systems, software, and network devices. And in this assessment, it asks for a proficiency level, whether you agree, neutral, disagree, strongly agree, or strongly agree or disagree. With that, for a self-assessment in this area, I have strongly disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. So basically, you want to self-assess yourself at if you are doing a troubleshooting activity, are you skilled at looking at what's causing the problem, working through a problem, and finding a solution with technical concepts? You could put notes as maybe in certain environments or with certain technologies you're much stronger, but all of that is going to help you better define your strengths in that area of troubleshooting. so that you can even potentially utilize your notes towards adding them in your resume. The next area we're going to go into is mobile device management. I am familiar with the basics of managing and securing mobile devices in a business environment. So the key here is in a business environment. You may have a very strong understanding of your own mobile device, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have an understanding of mobile device management or MDMs and ways that applications need to be added in a business environment for both cybersecurity and general security needs, and one of the best practices within industry. So you do want to think, maybe I do have a really strong understanding of how to manage an individual device, but maybe I have an area of growth, of course, with the proficiency level, your feeling of where you fit on a scale. Do you strongly disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree? Now, here I actually have added a resource from Indeed related to mobile device management and how to, effectively explain it on a resume, or an area to do additional research for yourself if you feel like it's an area of concern. The next area of focus is basic cloud computing concepts. I understand the fundamentals of cloud computing services. That means software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service as it relates to cloud computing and their applications in business. So I did put a little link here to the AWS Cloud Practitioner as a bit of an entry-level understanding of cloud technologies for you to review if that was something you wanted to take advantage of, is the Cloud Practitioner certification. But it's important just to think about, what is your understanding of cloud technology as it relates to business environments? And what do you understand? What components do you understand? What are some other areas that you should look into, especially if you see these terms and they occur often on a job description? Okay, so just make sure that you're aware of what they are, and also you're able to self-assess yourself in your understanding of these terms, so that if it's an area of something you want to grow in, or you need to grow in, that you take note of that. The next one I think is a huge one. It's the ability to learn new software, adaptability to new software. I quickly adapt to new software tools and productivity applications. So you can have strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. So I think this is an important skill because adaptability is huge. If someone asks you to go and learn a new piece of software and then adapt it or utilize it within a business environment, the speed in which you can adapt is going to be a huge, important piece to your value to the company. So it's also going to help you understand, different systems within an organization. Adaptability and ability to learn new systems is an incredibly powerful skill. So you want to understand, where do you feel with that skill? Is it something you can work on, develop? And if it is something you need to work on, and because not everybody has it, what are some strategies? And you can begin to look at strategies to help improve your adaptability. And you could take on some projects related to learning new software, or even better, start to learn the software that you're going to encounter in a specific field. The next area I want to focus on is workflow efficiency. I am skilled at managing my workflow efficiently using various productivity tools. So you're going to find in different environments that you're going to encounter different types of workflow tools, whether it's Trello, whether it's Monday.com, whether it's Slack. You're going to find that they're utilizing tools that are going to improve workflows on projects. And there's only one way to really get experience with this, and this is using them. Now, you can go out and practice utilizing some of these tools on your own, and especially if they're included in a job description, so you're well prepared for an interview, that you at least understand what some of the workflow efficiency tools out there are. Now, it's important that you do a self-assess yourself in this area. So if you go through and as you begin to prepare for applying for jobs and potential opportunities at internships, that you can explain your strength here and what you need to know, so that when it comes up on an interview, you know what to respond. So the next topic is digital collaboration. I effectively collaborate with team members using digital tools and platforms. Now, remember, with all of these questions in this section, you have the strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. And with digital collaboration, how you communicate, how you share documents, how you send messaging, how you write emails is all part of digital collaboration. So maybe you know how to send an amazing, quick message, but can you write a formal email? Can you communicate effectively an issue to others, or can you solve issues utilizing digital tools while collaborating with others? Do you know how to collect information and ask the right types of questions? This is all very important when thinking about how well you collaborate digitally. So make sure you take a good account of this, because I think a lot of people think that they do write really strong emails that are clear and cohesive and can explain their points, or they write really clear messages. But sometimes there are a lot of extra questions that still need to be asked. And some of that can be cleared up with better communication using digital tools. Because it's not as if you have the option of someone right in front of you where you're able to discuss a problem, often in remote work or environments in which there's a lot of digital tools used to communicate an issue. That is the key thing to understand, is how different it is than if I had someone in front of me. What are the questions I need to ask? What do I need to confirm? So think about that as you rate yourself and how well you do that. And ask others for feedback, or give yourself some potential practice problems in terms to evaluate how well you do that as well. The next one's a really important one. It's resilience and stress management. I can handle stress well and remain focused and productive under pressure. So, of course, we have strongly disagree, neutral agree, strongly agree. And we all have different levels in which we can handle pressure within a work environment and, remain focused and productive under pressure. But we also have to understand, where does that pressure come from? Is it from an existing deadline? Is it from a problem needing to be fixed? How are you going to show your resilience and your willingness and ability to solve issues when you're under pressure? And you need to think about be honest with yourself. Are you strong at this? Are there areas that you need to improve? All very important when you begin to self-assess yourself to see what types of roles fit best. Because there are going to be roles that have much more pressure and stress related to them. So the next area here is leadership potential. I have the ability to lead a project or team effectively, even in challenging situations. So not everybody's going to be a leader right out of the box or the get-go. People are going to develop leadership skills over time. Maybe they apply them from previous experiences, but it's important to evaluate yourself. What's my potential as a leader within an environment or any type of work that I'm doing? Am I able to creatively solve problems and show others how I'm doing that, and empower others is a big important part of leadership? And can I find that I can do this even in challenging situations? Am I the one who's able to step up and support other people as well as move projects forward? So I think it's really important. Assess your leadership potential. Do you agree with this statement that you have the ability to lead a project or team effectively? Have you led teams or projects before? Make notes in this area. Is this something you want to aspire to? Is this something that you're attracted to? If it's something you are, make a note of it so that you understand this is something that in your makeup you really want to have as part of your understanding of your self-assessment. And through all of these questions, I would recommend that as well, is make notes about, how much you agree, what are the factors related to your agreeing of these statements or disagreeing with the statements. The next is creative problem solving. I am able to think creatively and find innovative solutions to complex problems. Now, that's a big statement, but there are people who thrive being creative to solving problems. So you do want to consider that in your own self-assessment. Are you that person? Are you the person who can think out of the box to a solution that works for everybody? Have you provided solutions before? Do you have an example of how you've done that so that you can self-evaluate yourself properly? Do you need to really see more of these types of experiences? Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to solve a lot of problems in ways that would reflect well in trying to achieve a position in IT, but it's worthy to assess yourself here. Do you agree with that statement? What level do you agree with that statement? And as notes and resources, Is it an opportunity that, what types of notes do you want to make? Was there something specific you want to remember that you were able to solve a problem? Because you're going to potentially get a question in an interview around creative problem, how do you solve a problem? And you could draw upon your creativity towards solving problems. And that showcases your ability to think out of the box and also think ahead and have an answer for an interview that sounds like you're well prepared and you understand yourself well. Because I do think people who interview well are those who understand their skills and abilities really well and can speak to them very well. So just remember that. The next area is time management. I am effective at managing my time and meeting deadlines. So, of course, this is something that everyone's always constantly working towards. What are the deadlines? What types of work need to be done ahead of a deadline? What's your experience with this? You may have limited experience with this. You may have a lot of experience with this, depending on your experience at previous positions or within completing projects. Now, if you have evidence of this, it's a great note to put in the notes section here. But you also need to be honest with you around, do you procrastinate? Do you put certain things off? Does that impact your ability to manage projects? Is it something you need to work on? And you also need to remember that this is something that employers are going to look for. So you want to be able to speak to your ability to do it. So if there are opportunities in your past that you've received where you could showcase your ability to meet deadlines, I think that's also something valuable to show employers and be better prepared for in an interview environment. So you want to properly self-assess it here. So the next area of this self-assessment is critical thinking. I can critically analyze situations and think through problems logically. Now, this is separate than the timelines, some of the problem solving. This is, can you deconstruct a problem, analyze it, think about logically taking your time and deconstruct something. Like, is that a strength of yours? Is this something that you can bring to the table? If it is, try to be ready to explain it. If it's not, how can you improve your critical thinking? What are some processes you can put in place? For example, the troubleshooting methodology within CompTIA certification can definitely improve your critical thinking through an IT issue. Now, that's something that if you're weaker at critical thinking, you can practice and work your way through so that you can be prepared for an interview that may ask you for sequential steps in which you took to think critically about a problem. But also be honest around how you agree or disagree with the statement so you can see your strengths and weaknesses through this assessment. Now, this is one that I think is really important, and some people are definitely have strengths and weaknesses related to attention to detail. I pay close attention to detail and ensure accuracy in my work. Now, this is really important because attention to detail is huge. Because there are many times that small details are missed or need to be completed to make sure a project is done right. So you need to tune in and have attention to detail. And you need to measure and assess and at least keep in the forefront of your mind how important attention to detail is as you do work, because you're going to get better at it as well. No one is perfect in the beginning. So you need to make sure that as you begin to try to show attention to detail, that you're practicing, you're thinking about where is it necessary in a project, how can I show that I'm showing specific attention to detail, what are some things that I could do? Can I take really specific notes? Can I refer to documentation very specifically? How can I show that I am demonstrating really strong attention to detail? And also, when you're discussing any sort of project in a job interview or any other opportunity where it may relate to obtaining employment, having them understand how detailed you can be can also help you get the job. The next area here is initiative and self-motivation. So I assume if you're watching this video, especially at this point, you have initiative, you have self-motivation. You are thinking about what's next for me. You are doing a self-assessment. You're thinking about what are the pros that I have, what are the cons that I have, what do I need to work on, and how am I going to better evolve myself over time so that I can get the opportunities I want. So here I am proactive in taking initiatives and can work independently without constant supervision. That's a fantastic place to be. That when you are assigned a project, you can be checked up on, but you don't need to be supervised all the time to make sure that you're working on the project the right way. You're kind of answering some of your own questions that you may have taken to someone else in the right way. It's not to say you shouldn't ask questions, but people with different levels of experience are going to either be afraid of asking questions or know how to ask the right questions. And I think that's an important part with taking initiative. And also being proactive, like, I'm ready to just do this. Let me take care of it. Let me do it. Let me run. If there's an additional problem, then I'll bring it back. I want to take an initiative and do what's right. And it's also refreshing when someone doesn't have to work with constant supervision, because that they can continue to work and progress through problem solving and be proactive and basically complete projects. The next big topic here is adaptability to change. And this is a huge one, in that your ability to adapt and change to a work environment is a huge thing you need to understand over time, because things are going to change. Things change every day slightly, but over time they change quite a bit in different work environments. New technologies, new supervisors, new coworkers, new initiatives, new tasks are changing all the time. So your ability to adapt and work within this environment is a huge benefit. But some people struggle with change. Some people love change. Some people thrive in change. Some people struggle with it. Now, if you're struggling with change, you need to understand, what is it about it that you struggle with it? Is it because you need to learn new things? Is it because the environment changes so much? Is it because you just liked it the way it was before and you're not sure it's as effective? You need to start to break down, what are your resistances to change, and how you can turn those resistances to change to maybe put those into how to be a better team player or collaborative person within your work group. Also, being able to let go and understand what's next. It's very important to understand, your adaptability to change is really, really essential. And being able to assess honestly, if you're a person who tends to hang on very tightly to old ways because you felt like they worked the best way, and the new way, there's mystery. And there are mistakes made in new ways, yes. But you need to be supportive of adapting to change. And that makes you a team player and more collaborative. And the final one in this section is interpersonal skills. I have strong interpersonal skills, and I can work well with diverse groups of people. This is another one that is going to be a wide range. You're going to have people who have a lot of experiences with a lot of wide ranges of people's skills, abilities, backgrounds, experiences. And you're going to have those who have limited experiences with working with a wide range of skills, abilities, and backgrounds. So you need to be able to be adaptable, to be able to work with not only people who have limited abilities, but also people who have a wide range of backgrounds. And you might work with all of these people at the same time. And so when you focus on your interpersonal skills, it's about, how do I best be a good team player, work with others? How do I communicate effectively with others and let them know the problem? How do I solve problems with maybe a variety of different perspectives and experiences and education related to solving a problem? And how can I do it effectively so everybody understands that I'm not trying to offend anyone? I'm just trying to do my job and explain specifically what I need to explain. It takes time to develop these skills, but you need to have it in your workflow, and you need to be able to self-assess yourself in terms of, how much do you think about this topic, and have ways to improve yourself over time. So thank you for reviewing those areas of skills on this assessment. And in our next assessment, we're going to review entry-level IT job skills related to communication, problem-shooting, troubleshooting, adapting to new technologies, proficiency in specific tool areas, just general tool areas. And then we're going to work on, how do you reflect on your hard and soft skill development. So thank you for reviewing these hard and soft skills related to entry-level IT roles. And I will put a link in the description so that you can access this list at digitalfutureseducation.com. And I appreciate you checking out the video. Please give a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks again. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. In this video, I'm going to continue with our self-assessment tool, and we're going to be looking more specifically at entry-level IT skills with a quick assessment. And then I'm going to walk through a series of questions that you could use with a partner or someone else who's assisting coaching you to help you better define your career goals. These are a series of simple questions that are going to help you get a next step forward. So let's dive in. So in the past 2 videos, we've gone through the self-assessment tool to help review your current job interest and work skills, work experience, general technical and soft skills. And now we're going to move into entry-level IT job skills, and then some reflection questions to help you reflect on the skills that are going to be necessary for you to develop better hard and soft skills in looking for that next step of your career. Questions here are designed to help you just self-evaluate yourself a little bit around the skills you have and what you want to include within your resume when you're looking for a job. Now, they're also to help you understand some of the gaps you might have. So if you feel like you cannot answer these questions really smoothly, effectively, and efficiently, you might want to think about what are the gaps in your answers. And I'll suggest some as we move through, but think about that as you move through yourself. So the very first question is, I effectively communicate technical information to non-technical users. And that's an incredibly important skill, because if you're working in IT support or any level of IT, or, with technology in general, your ability to explain technical concepts in a way that many people of a wide range of skills and abilities can understand is going to be incredibly helpful. Because your supervisor may not always know the technical reason why an issue is happening. So it's important that you can explain these things in a way that's clear, concise, and allows you to kind of continue working on the project and people understand what the potential outcomes might be. And do note with these questions, I do have the same status as I had in previous questions with strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. Just a way to help you review your standing. And this is something where with a question like this, you may also want to take some notes for yourself around, areas of improvement. And also you may want to practice this skill, with someone prior to a job interview in terms of explaining a technical topic to a person who may not have a huge level of technical expertise, and just get their feedback on whether or not they understood your solution. All right, moving on to the next question. I am good at problem solving and troubleshooting technical issues. Now, everybody is going to have a different self-perception of how good they are at doing this, but at the end of the day, you want to feel what's better than being good is at least having a methodology for the way in which you're going to troubleshoot. I do recommend the troubleshooting methodology from CompTIA if you want to go that route and learning that methodology. But you want to have a strategy at looking at the problem. What is the context of the problem? What areas are impacted or affected by the technical issue? And do you need to escalate the issue to those who maybe have more experience? Now, that's just a very surface level examination of your ability to understanding your own ability to troubleshoot and problem solve. But you do need to dive in and kind of get a good feeling for how effective do you think you'll be at this over time with a wider variety of problems. And you don't have to know all the solutions, but you do not need to have a strategy for solutions as they come up. The next question is here. I work in a team and can collaborate effectively on projects. So do you have experience on a team? Have you collaborated before? Was it successful? What did you like? What did you not like? When answering this question, take some time to just think, how well did I collaborate? Did I contribute to a response? Did others take my ideas and utilize it towards a larger potential solution? Was I the leader in the group? Did I kind of follow the group? What was my role when working collaboratively? And ask for opinions from others if you're working on projects, like how well did I collaborate? How, could I have contributed more? What could I have done to improve my ability to do this? I handle empathy. I handle customer service situations. So the next question is about customer service, which is essential and critical in the area of IT in many positions worldwide, and I handle customer service situations with patience and empathy. I think we've all had an experience where we've seen people really handle a situation really, really well with patience and empathy, and at the same time, try to get the best solution within a business environment. And then I think we've seen people really handle it poorly in the past. So you really want to be on the side of handling it with empathy and patience and not allow the situation to get beyond you. Basically, try to address the things that you can control in a situation and do that in a caring way, trying to understand the customer, understand how you need to be patient sometimes with your response or your potential solutions that you provide, and try to do your best, sometimes in a very difficult situation. But can you do it? Are you capable? Can you take a step back and look at the situation from a couple different perspectives to make sure that you're doing your best to help the customer with the situation they're having, whether it's IT related or otherwise? Next one is I adapt quickly to new technologies and changes in project direction. So we had a question related to this with soft and hard skills around adapting to new technologies. Now, this is a question which is not only adapting to new technologies, but changes in project direction. So this is under the anticipation that maybe you're working on a project and you need to learn something new, or the project requires learning something in addition to help solve the solution of the project. How would you do it? What are your strategies? Can you adapt to the new technologies that's going to help this project be successful, not just adapt in general? The next questions are just around some general proficiencies, and these are changing very quickly within the job market. So the ones that I have here, I definitely think are going to get dated very quickly, but for the most part are still out there and should be some things that you consider prior to applying for positions. The first one is I am proficient in using Windows and Mac OS operating systems. Now, you may feel proficient until you're asked to do something or asked a question around troubleshooting something. Now, I'm not going to advise or suggest that prior to a job interview, maybe that you study every single thing about the potential problems of a potential system, but you want to, over time, expose yourself to these systems. Maybe you have a friend who has a Mac and you don't have a Mac. Maybe you ask them how to find certain areas of the computer and file locations and some of the components of the interface. And it could work the same way with someone who has a PC if you have a Mac. Now, you want to make sure you expose yourself to these different types of operating systems, because that's going to help you troubleshoot and problem solve issues with those users who use these type of systems. They're also going to make you more aware of the different types of operating systems that are out there and the solutions that come with troubleshooting them. And remember, that's going to be essential in an entry-level role. As small or insignificant as it may sound, these skills are essential. The next one is I am skilled in Microsoft Office. Next one is I am skilled in Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And the same could be said for Google applications and cloud Google applications. Understanding word processing and cloud-based word processing tools, whether it's Notion or some other Trello type tools. Microsoft Office is, of course, from the Microsoft family. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Just understanding how they work, how to troubleshoot common problems, whether it's saving files, creating documents, compressing documents, how Excel spreadsheets functions, and also how PowerPoint presentation functions is essential. So make sure that maybe you've been working, and I see this a lot, maybe you've been working with just Google applications for a long time, and you're very familiar with Google Docs. But then you get this great opportunity where they're using mainly Microsoft. You're going to need to then apply yourself to that environment, whether it's the cloud Microsoft environment or it's the locally installed environment, which still exists. You're going to need to learn how to be adaptable to those different types of interfaces. So just keep that in mind. And it's going to definitely depend on the job, but you need to be prepared to interact with these different softwares in different capacities. And that should be on the basic job description as well. The next question is, I can effectively use help desk software, such as Zendesk or Freshdesk. And you're going to see a lot of different types of help desk software probably in your career at IT. You're going to see ticketing software. You're going to have inventory software. You're going to have all different types of systems management, analysis, data management, software. So the best thing I can recommend here is that you become familiar, if you are not, with the idea of a ticketing system and how it functions within a work environment, especially an IT help desk environment. What does it mean to escalate a ticket, close a ticket, open a ticket? What is the good, what are the best practices for certain organizations? What are the best practices for certain organizations for closing tickets or escalating tickets of different types? Different systems are going to have different features. And that's a great question in an interview, is perhaps, what type of ticketing system do you use? And being a little familiar with ticketing systems prior to the interview, just so that you feel, they may come back to you with, oh, do you have familiarity with that system? And you could say, I may not have had familiarity, but I've done a lot of research. I understand how to open a ticket, close a ticket, best practices for updating tickets. And it shows that you take an initiative around actually handling the task at hand on the position. The next question is, I am comfortable using remote desktop applications to assist users. Now, this is super handy to have some experience with remote desktop applications. There's a wide range of remote desktop applications, but essentially you're providing service to someone on a machine that's not near you. You are remoting into that machine, acting as the user, but you're checking on files, basically trying to troubleshoot issues remotely. And there are a range of remote desktop applications. I would become familiar with the most common ones if you're unfamiliar with remote desktop applications, just to become more familiar with them, so that if you're asked about them in an interview, you've at least heard about them. And many remote desktop applications have a free version that you can test and try. So don't be afraid to try to do the install, test out trying a remote desktop application, just so you're familiar with how one works and functions. The next part of this is really diving into some reflection questions that you can work on with a partner around evaluating your hard and soft skills and doing some goal development, just around how do you improve over time with these skills. So the very first question here is, what are your current strengths in terms of soft skills? So if you've been going through this and taking notes all along the way, you should have an idea of what you think your soft skill strengths are. They're going to be topics like collaboration, teamwork, creative solutions. They're going to be non-technical based ways of working that are skills that come through working with others. Now, if you've been going through these questions, this next question is important. What are your current areas of growth in terms of soft skills? So maybe I was great at collaboration. I was great at teamwork. I have some creative solutions, but let's say my customer service could be improved. I'm going to say I could be more patient with customer service. And I think if you have not worked a lot of roles in customer service, that's going to be true for most people who are filling this out. Patience with customer service takes practice, it takes time, and it takes committing to being more patient in stressful environments. So sometimes it takes a little bit of extra time to develop. Next question is, what are your current strengths in terms of hard or technical skills? Younger people are often very technical savvy. Maybe you have programming, cloud technologies, maybe you have very specific targeted knowledges in a programming area or specific cloud technologies that you are happy to say that you have and can put on your resume. But now it's, what are your current areas of growth in terms of hard or technical skills? And one thing that I would say here is, you really want to think about the types of roles you're applying for. Maybe you don't have a lot of experience with penetration testing for cybersecurity. And just to have like another alternative topic here, I would also say project management tools. Maybe you don't have a lot of experience with project management tools, and I'll say technical project management tools like Slack. And that would be true if someone maybe just came out of college or starting education or have a limited experience in the work environment. You're probably not going to have a lot of experience with project management technical tools and how to utilize them. And that's going to connect closely to the soft skills, but it is going to ultimately be a technical skill. People are going to have to learn how to use these tools effectively. What areas would you like to grow the most in the next 3 to 6 months? Now, these are areas that skills, soft or hard, that you think that you can grow in within a 3 to 6 month period. Now, different skills are going to take longer. Now, of course, if you said, I wanted to learn Python programming, There are people who could learn quite a bit in 3 to 6 months, but to really, really know that, it probably takes learning it and also applying it in a much longer period than that. So you need to be realistic with the next 3 to 6 months. You may want to acquire additional customer service experience, which would be a soft skill. And this is also a good place to say, something that's a much short term. I would like to understand the Mac OS operating system better. Very simple, because everybody has weaknesses. Not everyone has all of the skills and experiences that they have for any one job. So you may come across a description which doesn't necessarily have that. You may come across a description in which you need that Mac OS experience. You maybe have never done it. Now, you can also take a very short course, do some training on your own, upgrade and adapt your own understanding of the Mac OS operating system within a short window of time, like 3 to 6 months. So just be careful around goals that you pick for that window of time. The next area addresses goals that take a little bit longer. What areas would you like to see grow the most in the next 6 to 12 months? So this is an area where you can choose larger goals. So this could be learning a programming language. This could be receiving a very specific type of experience. And let's see, I'll say I will complete the Amazon Cloud Practitioner certification, which is a relatively short. So you could write something like complete the Amazon Cloud Practitioner certification and the CompTIA Plus certification. Now, the reason why I wrote those two items is that we could really put anything here. It's a longer period of time, but you want to think about what's going to give you the most value over time. Now, you could work on learning a full programming language, but if it's not going to apply to those entry-level opportunities you're really looking for, maybe you'd be better off doing something a little more general. So I do recommend here, maybe potentially taking a short course, a couple or several short courses over the course of a 6 to 12-month period of time. Cloud Practitioner is a short certification on entry-level cloud concepts. So you get that cloud concepts piece. And CompTIA Plus certification, it does take some additional study time, up to a year or even 6 months for those who are on a path where they feel like they could dedicate the time to it. But you're going to get certifications. You're going to get additional knowledge in a wide range of areas. You're going to get a much more structured experience with your own self-learning, which is going to give you more over time. And that's really what you want. If you're really dedicated to kind of getting your opportunities, you don't want to waste 6 months or 12 months. You want some sustained practiced learning, whether it's an intern experience, could be also on this list, but something like additional certifications or short certifications just to get you in the frame of reference over a course of a year that you're really coming out of that time using it effectively. You don't want to take an entire year off or 6 months off. The final question here are, what are 2 barriers you will need to face? What are 1 to 2 barriers you will face and need to overcome? I will say most people do procrastination. Basically put it off, and they put it off for their own reasons, like they don't feel ready or they don't feel like it's going to benefit them enough. So procrastination is a big one. I think some people can feel overwhelmed by the skills they need. And I think for a final barrier is, so if I look at these 3 very big barriers, a lot of people have these as really big barriers. Now, this is where connecting with me and having me assist you can really come in handy, because I can help you kind of cross these barriers, because at the end of the day, you want to get these things done. You want to get these skills accomplished. You want to move a few steps forward every couple months. You can't do that if you're procrastinating, if you're putting things off. You can't do it. If you're overwhelmed by the technology, you need to just think about tangible ways to apply the skills to get the experience, so you just feel slightly less overwhelmed by any particular type of technology or something that you're trying to learn. And then time. You need to dedicate a specific number of hours a week to do this. I recommend 2 to 3 hours a week if you can. I think that's enough to, get started and kind of push yourself forward. But you need to do it and then be consistent with it. It's one thing to dedicate. It's almost like going to the gym or doing anything that's going to show persistence over time. You need to be consistent with it. You need to basically set a time. This is when I'm going to work on this. Maybe it's once, twice, or even 3 times a week. And dedicate yourself to picking up where you left off so you can see continuous learning over time. So this is a reflection that I recommend doing with yourself. You could do it with a partner and then share the answers and talk about what you both need to do. But it's essentially asking you to review your strengths, your weaknesses in terms of soft skills and hard skills technically. What are some things that you could learn and set goals for? I think most people do have ideas of things that they would like to learn that are realistic goals for them. Strengths and weaknesses. And then how on a 3 to 6 month and then a 6 to 12 month phase are you going to learn? Are you going to apply your skills to get to the next level? Very, very important. And then, of course, the final one is barriers. We all have barriers. How you face them and directly face them to accomplish your goals is up to you. Thank you. That's the final phase of that self-assessment document that I utilize with students to help review their progress as they move towards their career goals. And I hope that by you going through it, you also can remove some of the barriers to help get to the next level. Please remember that these questions are on digitalfutureseducation.com website. I will also have a link in the description to these questions. Feel free to get that download, review these questions, utilize them with a partner, with someone who's even not horribly technically savvy, a parent, a friend, someone to help you evaluate what your next steps could be to move forward with a career in IT. So thanks for joining me. Please give the a like and a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon.